held my first gun in 7th grade. And 7th grade was just about gang life. And it was really just me trying to fit in somewhere, you know. For all of my life, I felt out of place at home. And so I thought, you know, the gang was the place where I was going to fit in. That was where I felt like some persons respected me and, you know, cared and so forth. So I'm Andrew Folks. Currently, I am a songwriter, I'm an artist, and I'm a proud author. We're doing some foundation work right now, also charity work.
Andrew, you have had a very special story.
Yeah.
Tell me about your childhood. What was that like?
So I grew up between Kingston and Clarendon. My mom was in Kingston, you know, my pops was in Clarendon. So I was really living with my father and my stepmom. I was on a farm known as the ADC farm, which was an export farm. You know, I grew up with my siblings. It was 2 brothers and a sister, with me being the eldest. And it was very interesting. You know, my stepmom I wasn't a favorite, let's put it that way. You know, I was never a favorite, and I was extremely antisocial. I wasn't one who talked a lot or smiled a lot to this day. You know, I grew up feeling rejected. I felt hated. I felt out of place, you know, growing up. So, you know, growing up on a farm, I really never shared the farm interest. I had no interest in agriculture at the time. You know, and I was growing up in a time where apparently, you know, I think if you never share the interest that your pop shared, you know, it was deemed to be, you know, less than masculine, you know what I mean? But my interest from a tender age has always been music. It was never about agriculture. So that was, you know, when I was never a favorite, you know, I was never the favorite son. And then growing up with a stepmother who, you know, had differences with my biological mother. You know, it spilled over on me, you know, growing up also. And so I was the Cinderella in the house. I was the one doing the chores while my brothers were free outside. You know, I was the one called upon to pass the remote that was right in front of everybody, you know, and the only free time I had, you know, growing up was in the nights when the lights were turned off. You know, that was the only time I felt that nobody was going to call Andrew. And so to this day, I can't sleep without the lights being off, like completely, darkness. I was always an above average child, academically. I won my first national essay competition in grade 4. You know, I won for the parish of Clarendon. Passed GSAT with an average of 95, you know, for Clarendon College. So I was always, you know, a lot was always expected of me, you know, academically. But then with everything that I was facing, you know, growing up until grade 6, when I started high school, it wasn't as smooth a transition as, you know, I and a lot of persons thought it would have been. You know, I joined a school gang in 7th grade. Hardly went to classes in 7th grade. I think my highest grade in 7th grade was like 29. You know, after passing GSAT with such a high average. Held my first gun in 7th grade. And 7th grade was just about gang life. And it was really just me trying to fit in somewhere, you know. For all of my life, I felt out of place at home. And so I thought, you know, the gang was the place where I was going to fit in. That was where I felt like some persons respected me and, you know, cared and so forth. And in 8th grade, I was seen with a gun on the school. So I had to skip school for like a few weeks. You know, left out of the house like I was going to school. And I was hiding perfectly in a mango tree for like 3 weeks, you know what I mean? I was doing it extremely good, you know what I mean? Police were actually looking for me and some of the guys in the gang because of that incident, so we could have gone to school. And I was hiding in the mango tree for 3 weeks straight, doing it perfect, you know, until my father one drive past and him gone to my jump back down and go into the house and nobody, you know, didn't know. Until one day my uncle saw. I don't know how him see me in the tree, but him see me in there. And my father come home and say, "Oh, go on, how was school?" I said, "Good man, let me see your book then." My uncle done call him and tell him already, rough patch bro, I get some lick SMG. Sir, like the man give me some lick, brother, like, yo, for the whole night, may I get beaten. You see me? Then him go to school the next day and the whole story broke out and thing. But personally, I just didn't want to move back to Kingston with my mother still. I just tired of the, you know, I was good, you know, constant migraines and the constant picking pan and feeling out of place. And me, they really just want to go back to Kingston. So after that incident, you know, a decision was made that during the summer, you know, I was going to transition back to Kingston, you know, to live with my mother. and came back to Kingston. She got me into Excelsior High School, and I guess that was really like the turning point for me. You know, Excelsior was where, well, during the summer, my mom cried. And she was saying to me, oh, like, nobody didn't expect you to come out to nothing, you know what I mean? More you go Excelsior and just don't bother with the foolishness, just go do some work and decided to me I go do that. So went to Excelsior. Music was always a part of my thing, so the anger that I felt, you know what I mean, I transitioned that into writing class songs. So I became the clash artist in the school and so forth, start clash everybody. So I developed some sort of popularity as a school DJ. And it was really going good. My mother wasn't supportive of the music at the time. You know, she wanted to do the work and be the prefect and something. I never really wanted that. More a DJ. So I leave school in the evenings, find the studios. I started writing songs for artists from grade 9 though. And I was getting like $200 per day from my mother for go school, which my bus fare was $140. You see, so I can't buy the box food, and then my mother used to buy the uniform, my bashka. You know, my bashka used to have some $900 khaki suit. You can't get no girl on the school with that. Like, the shirt, them so thin, when you sweat, it stick on you, you know? So it's like, everybody knows that the bashka uniform. You know, the boy them used to have this white looking khaki with bud and pleating at the back of the shirt, and them couldn't do that. Until Excelsior was winning Morning Cup. And I say, I write a Morning Cup song and somebody hear it and said they want me DJ it in the devotion. So I said, alright, go DJ the song in the devotion. That was like 10th grade. And it mashed up the whole school. The principal said, come here, I need you to type the song, the words of the song on paper. And I'm going to make you sell them. So I sell the paper in the school with just the words of the song for $50 to the student and $100 for the teacher them. Excelsior have like 2,400 children. Yeah man, I start paying my mother light bill. I buy my cross bag, you know, buy my little phone, them time the digital just come out, you know what I mean? Start do my little thing and I can buy the box food them and them thing there. Then I go record some songs at the studio. And my friend had a burner, so we start burning the CD them, you know, and selling at the school. So I start hustle my little way out there, so from them time there. And that was really the early part of my journey still, you see it. Finished Excelsior, so we shut up the CXC them. You see me? And I was doing a law program for a year, which I stopped, you know, in 2009 and started music.
When you left Excelsior, how many subjects did you have?
I have 9 grade ones.
You have 9 grade ones.
Yeah.
After you left Clarendon because you were found on a school with a gun.
Yeah.
When your mother found out about that, wow, what did she say?
About the gun?
Yeah.
So my mom knew the struggles, you know, I had with, you know, the situation with my stepmom and what I was going through. It was already an ongoing thing for years, you know. So, and you know, she was disappointed and so forth, but I don't think it was really taking out on me per se. She knew that I was fed up, you know. I had to go to the doctor at one point because of constant headache, and he was even asking about my living situation because it was migraines. She wasn't really looking under that factor. It was really, I want to move, go back to town. You see me? But then it wasn't an easy transition either, because when I moved back to Kingston, because of me being this antisocial dude, my mother isn't, you know, the most expressive person either, well, at the time. So then we found out that living together now, I don't think either of us knew how to operate, you know, because she was used to being there. I was used to not being there. And so it was like, good morning, you know what I mean, and nothing, and then good night. And we just never knew how to talk to each other. And so moving back to Kingston with me, think could have been something nice. And it became like one of the time I start wonder if I go hate my mother now. Yeah, and I don't know nothing she do. She's miserable. You see me? And when me want to do, she don't want me. She want the music and she say this and, you know. But then they had a PTA meeting at Excelsior at one point and they had asked me to DJ a song. I wrote a song about my mother and she was there when I performed it, and that's when she really saw the musical talent and she just free up and let me do my thing, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So music kind of brought you and your mother back together?
Yeah, and saved my life too.
And saved your life?
Yeah.
When you say music saved your life, what do you mean?
If I didn't have music, I think I would have been a very violent person at the time. I had a lot of anger in me. like there was a lot of anger in me. If it wasn't music, there would have been no outlet for me to express. You know what I mean? So even writing the clash songs at Excelsior it was therapy. It was like letting out anger. See, writing the clash songs, the clashing is like when you finish, you free up. You know, all a vibe and everything. So it was a vibe like it was like therapy for me. Was and is still therapy for me.
Okay, so after you stopped that law program, what's been your journey like?
It was like a roller coaster, man. It was, trying to become a dancehall artist with mediocre success. 2009, thereabout wasn't the social media age. It was the poster, you print up the poster, then paste up everywhere in a half a tree, and you have to try to get to the radio station, them and the whole work. So it wasn't as easy as now, so I had to do a lot of networking. Remember the top phone at the time was BlackBerry, and I just have the ping. It wasn't much, so sure as at them time they were trying to do it. I was around Isaiah Leng, you know what I mean? So I performed on Sting like 3 years straight, between 2009 to 11. I did every major show still, being one Summer Sizzler. When Bounty Killer and Vybz Kartel, had that lyrical beef in 2009, I was one of the writers for Bounty Killer at the time. I was the angel songwriter between 2009 to 11 thereabouts. So I've written for Blue and Fire Ghost, Lady G, all of them. And yeah, so I had mediocre success, and I was doing it up until 2012, and I just walked away briefly, from music at the time. Went back to Clarendon, not to the house, but to my girlfriend's place at the time, and I was in Clarendon for a minute. Never leave nowhere. One at the time we were in an abandoned house, no window, no door, no nothing. And I started working at a funeral parlor, bury people. I started working as an undertaker, getting $1,500 per funeral. And then I was working at a factory, so I was doing both jobs, doing the funerals on the weekend and so forth, and stuff like that. Until in 2013, I got signed to Moby's Records, which was a local label in Clarendon, and there I got a very big song, a song called Tax Everything at the time in 2013, which was being rotated and really heavily, thanks to Elise Kelly who took it up and so forth. 2014 I had another big song, but then in 2014 I decided to get married. So I got married to my longtime girlfriend in 2014, and 3 months after I got married I decided to walk away from music. My wife reached 3 weeks before she have a baby. Them do the ultrasound, and so my daughter weighed 3 pounds. And I say, 3 pounds. I said to God, I said, brother, you see how much thing man go through after a man walk out of dance hall. And then you come tell me say 3 pounds I pick me. I said, brother, me no want a 3 pound baby. 8 pounds and up. And that 3 weeks before. I know so my daughter weigh 8 pounds 6 ounces. At the first sign that God showed me say, yo, I'm real, you know what I mean?